Listen to me, young'un, and take heed ye listen careful like. For I, Jasper Crowd, am done, dusted, beggared, broken, and cursed, and well I deserve it. The coward that I was cost the souls of 12 innocent children, don't you laugh. You would do well to listen to my story, for there's no jesting with me. Mr. Dickens was right when he said, we forge the chains in life we wear. Oh yes, indeed we do. Them children were orphans, foundlings and such, all sorts but barely a bad egg amongst them, though I'll nae speak ill o' the dead, if that they be. What did I do? It grieves me still to confess, I betrayed them every one. 'Twas fear that made me do it, more's the shame. They'd put their trust in me, all of 'em matron too, and until that night had every reason to. Decent, I was, honest, faithful, right before man and God, but that was before I set eyes on Satan himself. I remember fear, I remember loneliness and melancholy, sad as a mournful tune, so thick 'twas like being smothered in a blanket of laudanum. Doom spoke that night, and I had not the heart to deny him. Those cursed pocket watches, who'd have thought the devil's power was in a timepiece? Dozens there were, tick, 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 faster, slower, I cannot remember. I only know I lost myself, such was my terror, and before I could recover my wits, I had given him the keys, all of them, the keys to every room in the place, and begged and pleaded that he take the children and spare my wretched soul. So he did. But the wretch he spared was to become more wretched a soul racked with guilt than any soul damned to join him and his hellish band. Then nothing, not a sound, just a full moon in the night creature's calls. 'Twas peculiar to me how I'd heard not earlier on my rounds, nary an owl's hoot. After, they called again, as if they'd known ahead of time that evil lurked. Oh, the constabulary were called next morning, and the newspaper men flocked, like hungry crows, to berate us day and night. The coon dogs were brought in, carousing for days in every direction, so that you'd have been forgiven for imagining an entire chain gang of convicts was on the loose. But 'twas the emptiness howled louder than any hound. No scent, no blood, no trace. Just vanished. Some folk pointed their fingers fair square in my direction, suspecting, and rightly so, that my unnatural silence concealed a guilty conscience. My confessions before judge and jury went unheeded. The ranting of an inferior mind marred by distress, the judge decreed. But when all was said and done, naught but silence lingered like a faint perfume where young'uns had prattled and played. Besides, I was known as a good man. So, I stayed, as if my presence was a living reminder of what had been. Matron, cook, staff, all drifted away to other places, other lives, when it became clear to the simplest of men that the children were never to return. Naturally enough, no one else came near the place, as if the silence itself was contagious. So I kept the buildings from dreary decay to ease my guilty soul, and appease the wrath of the Lord and the taken. Night terrors. 'Tis without a word of untruth to tell ye I've never slept a full night without waking in bone-cold terror, the sweat frothing my brow like a beast on a devil's ride. I could no longer face my own quarters, but sought sanctuary in the Lord's chapel, though the thought struck me many's the time, where was he when evil sought to call? I took some comfort that as the evil one had made his presence felt, perhaps the Lord in his wisdom would do so as well. Ach, he never did. No doubting my sin was too great, and my penance a trifling act compared to the eternal suffering of the lost ones. Though fair's to say, I slept beneath that altar and the paraphernalia, the clippings, photographs I collected, for 40 years, and never saw the masked one with the black, pitiless eyes and grasping limbs again, except in the darkest corners of my mind's wanderings, where he became known to me as the Huntsman, for, like a hunter, he collected souls for sport. But I heard him at every turn, in the creaking of the trees, the footsteps of a spring shower, and the night call of the frogs, the infernal timepieces. Tick, tick, tick. It maddened me, how could it not? A lesser mortal, I am sure, would have succumbed to death's damnation far sooner. But so great was my fear of the Lord's retribution that I sought to busy my waking hours, such that I would slumber exhausted, yet still anxious every night. For years I suffered this torment, and hence the maze was built. I had always promised young Charlie that I would create such a contraption, as the boy had a fascination with music and puzzles, and together we spent many a pleasant hour poring over drawings and plans. So it was for Charlie, a bastard foundling. I sweated some 25 years to plant and plan this memorial with a headstone set deep within the bosom of the hedges to honour each soul. The centrepiece was a great plane tree, a lush green beauty upon which in happier times I'd hung a double swing for the younger folk. Many's the time whilst planting and planning the maze, I would sit beneath its bereft branches and weep for the lost loveliness from this world. Until the night of the great storm, the eve of the very same day, I wiped a polishing cloth across the words on the final headstone and allowed my heart a moment's grace of peace and pride for a job well done. The same day, damn it, he had played me, trifled with my soul as carelessly as a fiddler draws a bow, as a cat toys with a mouse, teasing, terrifying before the choking kill. He had known me all the time, these years and years, mocking my toil, my futile, fruitless quest to make amends. He had always been near, the ticking in the maze, countless moments I struggled to still my pounding heart. 'Tis just a cricket. Nay, the huntsman, the predator, was simply biding his time. That night, cloudless, the air so thick that every breath 'twas like sucking water from a melon. Crack! A single bolt of lightning straight from the bowels of hell, striking the heart of the gentle plane tree, shattering branch and bough in a flaming pyre. A sacrifice proclaiming, evil stands here in triumph. Not goodness, not forgiveness, nor mercy. For another summer I sought to continue my work, but the last vestige of my faith was broken, crumbled like dust in the ploughman's hand. The terrors in my dreaming hours made clear the path I would have to take. I was old, broken and tired. If God did not want me, then the huntsman could have me. For what damnation could be more despicable than the 40 years of living hell created by my ignorance and cowardice? I had forged the chains I wore. 40 years. Was that not punishment enough? When our own Lord had suffered but 40 days and nights in desert wilderness, tempted by the devil? Enough. Cursed be the proclaimer of my fate. No one cut the noose. For 37 days I hung until, in time, my absence from the local storekeeper's eyes sent the curious to venture forth to check on my well-being. They say the crows had pecked out my eyes, leaving black, pitiless holes. 'Tis better they do not know the truth. St. Matthew, chapter 18, verse 9. If thine eyes offendeth thee, pluck them out. For I had discarded that which would have had me see the one who tormented my nights all these years come to collect his due. Oh, that I had been able to deafen my ears to his loathsome approach. The newspaper men finally had their day. Something to see, describe, report.